Rewatch, the show where we all get together and watch a movie that we remember fondly from our past, and then we decide if that movie actually stands up to a modern viewing audience. This week, we'll be watching American Werewolf in London. So, real quick, let's kind of just go around the room, introduce ourselves. I'm Nick.
I'm Ash.
I'm Sam.
I'm Bret.
For those of you at home who can't see, Nick is pointing to everyone.
Yeah, I was waiting for the finger.
And and Bryce just missed his cue.
I was I?
And then Bryce just reading his phone.
And that's Bryce. All right, moving on.
Okay.
I didn't see, there's that awkward moment of like, do I talk next? Anyway, that's who we are. So what is the show?
We're that awkward moment.
Yes.
Every time you have that awkward moment.
This is going to be
You're listening to
30
that
minutes of
awkward
awkward
moment.
podcasting.
that awkward moment.
So what's the show all about? Let's quickly kind of talk about that. The idea here is we're not just watching movies and talking about them. And that's kind of a little bit of what we're doing, but
We're doing that.
But we've got more of a focus than that. The idea here is, you know, and this happens all the time. You're talking to people about movies, and there's this movie that you absolutely loved as a child. And then you recommend it to people, they watch it, and that movie is horrible. All right? So the question is, these movies that we loved as a child, are they any good? Or if I tell you about this movie that I loved, will you actually like it? So we want to, and there's, 5 of us in the room, and we're going to pick out movies that at least one of us have seen that we absolutely love but haven't seen in a really long time.
And on the other hand, at least one of us, hasn't seen.
Right.
So we're approaching it from that sort of like nostalgic memory, but also a modern view on the movie that was perhaps made like 30, 40, who knows, maybe even 50 years ago. Right.
Yeah,
Did they even have movies back then?
Had a few. As a matter of fact, there's some I might put on the list from the 30s. I love the Universal Monsters, and I know you guys have not seen all the Universal Monster movies.
Do you remember when Abbott and Costello met the Wolfman?
I love when Abbott and Costello met the Wolfman.
Oh, boy.
That's the best. So that is the basic idea. And so, I think this is great because these movies might not be any good. It might be something that was good to a 10-year-old version of me that is no longer any good.
Very likely.
Or it could just be that much better.
It could be that much better. And I think kind of the perfect example of this that we keep coming back to is The Goonies. I know I've seen it. I remember it being great, but I haven't seen it for 25 years.
See, and I'm the one person who didn't like it.
Interesting.
So I haven't seen it
Blasphemy.
since, and it would be interesting to see it again.
Yeah.
But the other example that comes to mind is we just recently saw Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and I hadn't seen
Yes.
it, and you had seen it, and you came out of the theater going, I didn't like it as much as I did, and I came out of the theater being like, oh my god, that movie was amazing. So
I think
I
that's a
agree.
perfect example.
I love that movie.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
I also went in with zero expectations, which might
And
help.
so you hadn't seen it before either.
Yeah.
Okay. Sam
And
and I
I-
are the virgins. Usually.
I remember absolutely loving it. And somehow watching it this time, I felt like it didn't go anywhere. I felt like it had no structure. It was just just this whole thing about this one guy going crazy. And there was no conflict. There was no resolution. It was just, okay, Richard Dreyfuss is going crazy. So,
With mashed potatoes.
With
Oh, yeah,
mashed
no,
potatoes.
the mashed potatoes were great.
so clearly our opinions will change based on time and lots of other factors.
I'm also really looking forward to the time when I pick a movie because every time I pick out something from my childhood and rewatch it, it's fucking awful.
It's the
It's
worst.
just so bad.
It really is.
I had the same experience. Like, my parents loved Blazing Saddles and made me watch Blazing Saddles as a kid, and it was the best thing ever. And then I made somebody watch it in college, and there was this weird experience. Maybe it was just that night, but it's like, yeah, this isn't any good.
Well, I think that the vibe going into... Because I have, sat down before with people and been like, I love this movie, let's watch this movie. And if they aren't into it, that vibe, I feel like, sort of, rubs off on you, and suddenly you're like... Oh, I don't know. Was this a good movie? As opposed to if maybe you watched it with someone who was super into it, you would feel differently.
Yeah, you start to
Absolutely.
feel emotionally responsible for every
Exactly.
beat that it's trying to hit, and if
Yeah.
it fails, you feel like you failed as a filmmaker, even though you were in no way, shape, or form involved in the movie.
That's huge. You come in as the advocate for that movie.
Yeah.
And if they don't like it, you look like a jerk.
Yeah.
And it puts this weird weight on the entire experience of watching the movie. Absolutely.
And nowadays people are like, you just wasted an hour and a half of my time. I could have been on Twitter or something, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
so that's a good time to talk about what we're watching tonight. We're going to watch American Werewolf in London, which is a movie that I remember absolutely loving. And let's just kind of go around the room. Ash, have you seen American Werewolf in London?
I have seen maybe 20 minutes of the film, and I have a very distinct memory of this film. I was in middle school, I think, and I was over at a friend's house and it was like around Halloween when we were watching it, and they were like, let's watch this movie. And I was like, okay. And I wasn't into horror films back then, and I honestly wasn't into horror films until I met Bret, I think. But I remember watching it and got to the point where he like first transforms into the werewolf, and it was so terrifying for me. I had to leave the room, which, as anyone in middle school knows, that's like the most uncool thing you could possibly do. And then I like decided to, you know, take it a step further in the uncool and like call my parents and have them pick me up. So,
So you never finished it.
I never finished it. It freaked me out way too much.
I'm
I had
mentally
to
sending
leave.
you a high five in the past for being so awesome about that.
Tonight is definitely gonna go well.
Yeah.
That's all I can say.
I am cool with horror movies now.
Keep
but-
drinking.
Yeah.
Bryce, have you seen Werewolf?
I've actually never been to London, so I haven't really seen anything in London, let alone a werewolf.
Fair enough.
He's also never seen a werewolf.
That
Period.
either. So
You kind of look like one, though.
A little bit.
A little bit. Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's
like
see how
you
it
should be
goes.
talking, Brett.
Sam?
All I have seen is the transformation clip from I Love the 80s.
Okay.
On
Which is
VH1.
terrifying, right? It's scary.
I was not scared, but
Oh.
This is interesting.
out of context.
If Sam wasn't scared, I must have been a real whiz back then.
This really is the defining piece of this movie, and I thought we'd talk more about it afterwards. And, you know, if people listening to the podcast haven't seen it, we probably shouldn't talk too much, but this is the quintessential transformation scene, and I think we'll have a lot to say after the movie.
They did a good job with
Yeah.
the makeup or whatever.
I'm
This was
excited.
pre-CG, by the way.
1981.
All
Yeah,
of you
practical
youngins.
effects.
Practical
I'm an advocate.
effects are always more terrifying than CG.
Exactly.
in my opinion.
Like
And-
Large Marge.
Tell them Large Mark sent you. Brett, have you seen Werewolf?
I've seen a lot of werewolf movies. I don't think I've seen this one.
Okay. Excellent. Have you seen the transformation scene?
I feel like it. Well, I watched I Love the 80s. I think I saw it.
So it must have.
Yeah. I don't really know what to expect, except, you know, there's an American running around in a foreign country. It's probably going to be, he's
What
probably
if-
an ass to everyone.
What if that was just the word, like, you know, for like Europeans use
That's what
for
British
Americans?
people call
oh,
Americans.
fucking werewolf!
Not
God.
a werewolf in the tubes. So we're watching American Werewolf in London, which was made in 1981, published by Universal Studios, directed by John Landis. I'm a huge fan. This was, our stars are David Naughton, Griffin Dunn, and Jenny Agutter. We'll talk about them a little bit after the movie. And so this was 1981, and I think we have to think a little bit about the context. There really hadn't been any big werewolf movie since the 1930s Universal Monsters movies. And Universal Studios put this film out, and it was kind of the first kind of step back into the big monster movies. And in 1981, there were a bunch of big werewolf movies. We had The Howling, Night of the Werewolf, and American Werewolf in London, I think, is the one that everyone remembers. Like, somehow that was the year of werewolves, but this is the one that stuck out. This is the one
Where does Teen Wolf
The
fit in
Chinese
there?
Zodiac Year of the Werewolf. Is that song? Oh,
Werewolves in London.
Is that
Yeah,
from
the Warren
this
Zevon
movie?
song? It's not from this movie. There was, you know, several sequels to the 1930s Wolfman, the Lon Chaney Jr. film, Claude Rains, all that. And actually, I'm getting this wrong because I think Werewolf of London came before the classic 1930s Wolfman. So there's kind of almost, I wouldn't call it a prequel. I think they were kind of reimagining the werewolf after Werewolf of London with Wolfman. Anyway, 30s was that. So I would imagine Warren Zevon wrote that song about that movie, but I'm not sure. But there is something about werewolves in London. I don't know.
It was just some you know, movie guy was just like, werewolves in London. oh, we got to make that movie.
Yeah.
That or someone was being really racist towards British people. I don't know. That they look like werewolves or something.
But the werewolf is the American.
Okay, then racist towards Americans.
He's an American werewolf because no other country gets cool animals.
In Canada, they have werewolves, but they're called La Loup-garou.
Well,
They
there
have
you go.
them-
That's not catchy at all.
Don't they have
You
them
should
in
have seen
French?
Ozzy just perked up when you said La Loup-garou.
That's
Oh,
terrifying.
he is
Ozzy
one.
is the dog. Next dog.
He's a
By the
dog.
way.
He's not the
A
dog.
dog.
He's our mascot.
The only dog in a world.
Now,
There's only one dog.
speaking of music, you brought up the song Werewolves of London, but, you know, we were talking about what we remember of the film, and I don't want to talk too much about what I remember before we see it, but one thing that really sticks out to me is the music, because it has a song score, you know, it has like a normal score, but there's a lot of, you know, songs in the movie, and they're all either Van Morrison or Creedence Clearwater Revival.
Is this a musical?
It's not a musical, but it's got some great songs in it. And it's all just these two bands, either Van Morrison or CCR, and they're all songs about the moon, which I always thought was just this really cool thematic thing about the movie. And you know I love the moon and, you know, the Apollo program and all that stuff. So I always like that, all these really cool songs about the moon tying into the werewolf. Anyway, great music in this movie.
And then Hollywood never let go of that idea, and now every song has to
Every
be
song.
completely relevant.
Yeah, it can
You
be
know,
a little
Frozen,
nice.
all the songs were about the moon.
The moon.
It's really cold on the moon, so, you know.
I don't think we should let the moon go. It's kind of important.
Yeah.
You obviously didn't see Rise of the Guardians because
Oh my
it's
God.
all about the moon.
Is
Songs
it really?
about the moon?
No
Songs about-
songs.
Oh, the moon
but
is about the moon.
The moon is
it's
a main
it's
character?
a theme, kind of.
They were like, talk to me, moon. And then they looked up and the moon didn't say anything because it's a rock.
That was the end of the movie. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert, that was Rise of the Guardians.
So before we jump into the movie, I believe, Ash, you had some news that you wanted to share with us that's relevant.
I do. I have fun movie news. So, on the theme of favorite childhood movies, one of my favorite childhood movies is Labyrinth. And apparently announced today, which is going
October
to be dated whenever you actually listen to this, but it's October 10th. The Henson Studios are in production or pre-production of Labyrinth sequel.
Wow.
That's right. I wanted to see the looks on your faces.
Okay, so
Labyrinth sequel.
oh god, if they can get Bowie and Jennifer Connelly
No.
up in there.
You know they won't though.
That's the only way to make it right.
It's
Yeah.
either they either do that or they do like what they're doing with Ghostbusters, where it's like let's completely reimagine it.
Well, if it's, Jennifer Connelly is the parent that leaves,
Oh,
and then there's some
and
other
her-
babysitter.
her
Even she's there
baby's
for
named
2
Toby.
minutes. That could be very.
Or
and-
maybe her baby's name is Jareth.
no, there has to be a little dog named Jared.
Or maybe she's not married and she has a baby and it's like whose baby is this?
Oh,
it's
scandalous.
Jareth's. Jareth's. Oh.
A lot of stuff happened that night in the labyrinth.
Get Russell Brand to be.
Russell Brand.
Oh my god, he would be an amazing Jared.
Oh god.
I don't know. I feel like he doesn't take himself seriously enough.
See, that's
David Bowie can walk that fine line.
Yeah.
I don't think Russell Brand can.
I think
I'd give him a
that's what
chance.
everyone should be thinking about right now is who is the new cast of Labyrinth? Justin Bieber. Who else
As the baby,
has the baby?
or just some ridiculous little troll.
Yeah. Who else would be the cast of Labyrinth? Lindsay Lohan as your lovable Ludo. What else would
Can't
happen?
wait
Anyway,
to see that.
that was my fun movie
That
news
is
for you.
awesome. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to pause the recording and we're going to watch the movie and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about how we felt about it. So if anybody listening at home wants to pause the podcast, watch a movie, you can join back in with us.
It doesn't even have to be the one we're watching.
Just watch a movie. Yeah. But before we jump into the movie, something I want you to look out for. I'm a big fan of John Landis. John Landis from the Blues Brothers. Suddenly I'm drawing a blank because I'm on the mic, but Sorry, just had a phone chime in.
There was what's your information being deemed to you?
Anyway, I love John Landis, and one of the great things about John Landis, like little Easter eggs, in every John Landis movie, there's always some mention of a movie
There's
called
always some man.
Some mention of a movie called See You Next Wednesday. So that's the Easter egg to look out for when you're watching this or any other John Landis movie.
Spoilers.
Look out the C word. Kids, cover them ears.
See You Next Tuesday is a tricky way of saying cunt.
Oh, acronym. Maybe he's playing a game there. Maybe See You Next Wednesday is like the next step.
The next step. It's even more intense than calling someone cunt.
Yeah. Okay, so look out for See You Next Wednesday.
Well, we're not PG-13 anymore.
And
Unless you're Irish.
Before we jump in,
I'm Irish. What the hell?
You're not from Ireland.
Well, that's true. I'm an alcoholic. Does that count?
Not really.
You
No.
could probably find it on the map, though. I mean, it's like,
30%.
I could, depending on how much alcohol.
Okay, so Bret, will American Werewolf in London be good?
It sounds like a movie that would be really lame, but werewolves are cool, so I'm giving it like 40% chance of cool.
Sam?
I'm gonna go with awesomely bad here. I'm gonna say that it's gonna be terrible, but I will appreciate all of the terrible.
Wow, you guys are game for what you think is going to be a terrible movie.
That's the 80s.
Yeah.
No offense.
There's some great stuff out of the 80s. All right, Bryce, American Werewolf in London?
sure.
Ash?
It's tough because I want to say that I think it's going to be good, but at the same time, I felt like Nightmare on Elm Street did not hold up.
That was one where I was the person sitting there hoping you would like it.
Yes. And
Yeah.
I was like,
And I
this
still
is
love it.
laughable.
Okay.
But she got a blow-up dog. It sucked through a peephole in a door at the end of the movie. Sorry, spoiler again.
Oh, yeah, the mother through the... Yeah.
Yeah,
They killed the
anyway.
blow-up doll?
They killed the blow-up doll. Anyway, but from what I remember, it was terrifying. I'm gonna go. Bret said 40. I'm gonna go 50-60%, but I'm not committing to 60. So,
Well, I'm bringing the movie to the table, and I think I've seen this more recently than I think our standard should be. I've definitely seen it within the past 10 years. I think it's going to be great. So I'm going to be sitting here the whole time as the person hoping you all like it.
so great as in 100%.
Are
Well,
we giving like Rotten Tomato scores here?
we
Or
have a
what is
record.
this?
We have a record of you guys hating movies that I love.
We do.
So there's that
We do.
factor there.
There's kind of an unspoken rule. If Nick likes a movie, Bryce and I hate it. If Bryce and I like a movie, Nick probably will hate it.
But we all loved Chef.
We did love
The
Chef.
most recent one on the table is a winner.
Are you saying Chef or Shaft?
Chef.
Chef.
Okay,
As
What
a
is
okay.
person
wrong
who
with
cooks
you?
awesome Cubano sandwiches.
We all love Shaft. That was a great
I can
movie.
dig it.
All right, so I think we've got our bets on the table. Let's watch American Werewolf in London.
Bomb ba bomb ba dang 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 ba ding dong boom ba ding ba dong blue moon.
We're back.
So we've just finished watching American Werewolf in London, and already I'm intimidated. I'm afraid of the notes that Sam has, and I want to come right out of the gate, and I want to recognize that I remembered incorrectly that not every song in the movie was Van Morrison or CCR.
I
I feel
would
like
say-
you're stealing our thunder a
To
little
be
bit
exact,
Not even close.
4 songs were, and 7 songs were not.
there.
Now,
That's
are you
less than half?
Are
You
you,
sh-
are
you should thank
are you
us.
counting orchestral score?
Yes.
I think that is a valid
No, no, no,
count.
no.
And
That-
porno
yes.
music.
And porno music. Porno music is very important.
I did include
Yes.
the porno music, yes.
So that's the point, right? We remember certain things about these movies and wrong, so I was wrong. But there was this awesome theme of songs about the moon. And
That's
here's
true.
one thing that I really dig. One of the things that I love about Clue is that there's that one song, Shaboom. And there's like 3 or 4 different versions of the song Shaboom throughout Clue. And in this, there were like 3 versions of Blue Moon.
Was there really?
Yeah, the very first song, the very last song, and in the middle there was the Sam Cooke version. So it's like 3 different versions of Blue Moon. None of them were Van Morrison or CCR.
So what you're saying is you were just way
I
off.
was way off. I almost said the best songs were Van Morrison and CCR, but I think the Sam Cooke version of Blue Moon is pretty awesome. I think that's the one that played under the Amazing Transformation scene. But yeah, I was wrong. You and your judgmental notebook over there.
It's actually not that judgmental, to be honest.
I
Because,
think it is.
because I actually really love this movie.
Really?
I did.
Okay, we're jumping
Okay.
right into it.
Yeah, I'm going.
All right, we're there. You
Which is
love the movie.
surprising because you don't really like scary movies, right?
I don't.
There weren't any aliens in it.
There weren't, so that's a big plus.
Okay.
Okay.
And, like working
Because
in
Sam
stop
is
motion.
afraid of aliens, just to clarify.
Okay.
It's an irrational phobia, and I blame
I
my
don't-
dad and his love of X-Files, and the fact that we lived alone at a lake.
You know, I
Well-
don't think it's irrational to be afraid of aliens.
It's irrational until the aliens show up, and then it's completely rational.
Exactly.
And
And then I
then-
find out that I'm on some reality TV show, and you all put me up to it, and you'll never be my friends again.
Oh my god, can we do that?
If you do that, you are dead to me.
She's serious about the never being friends again.
It's a conversation Brett and I have had before.
Oh my
I want
god.
to hear about why you loved American Werewolf in London.
Wait, you
Okay.
know I'm gonna show up at your house in an alien costume now, right?
And you will get punched in the face.
Like-
I'm not, no
like
joke.
the Mexican birthday party in Signs. They just walk by the window.
That movie was
Never
so
seen
bad.
it.
Oh my
Oh
god!
god, you would love that scene.
No, I would not.
Signs is
And
the
because
dumbest
of you
movie
guys,
ever.
I'm going
Oh,
to
no.
shut all of my blinds at night from now on.
You can't say that Signs is the dumbest movie ever when just a few years later, Night Shyamalan brings us The Happening.
Yeah, okay, The
Werewolves.
Happening is
I-
the dumbest movie
I haven't
ever.
seen it.
So Sam really liked it.
I did. Should I say why? Or do
Yeah.
you guys
Absolutely.
wanna- okay.
Yes. Validate my opinion of this movie.
in 3 words.
I do no. Okay, well,
Well, 2 of them are
Already
Rick
over!
Baker.
one of my bullet points is nightmare scene equals terrifying.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was legitimately like, kind of want to crawl under a blanket right now.
And it kind of came out of left field because all of a sudden there's Muppets, and it's like, oh, I love the Muppets. The Muppets are great. And where the fuck are we? We're in some living room, and suddenly there's zombie Nazis breaking down the door and like oozing everybody.
Oozing.
Oozing. Oozing. The adjective, if you were.
So I absolutely love the nightmare. I love the idea that building up to the transformation, the curse of the werewolf is that you're haunted by nightmares. And that the transformation is one of the most traumatic, painful experiences that can happen. And I love those elements to it. It's more than just being the wolf. There's so much more to that curse.
Yeah, I agree. And I like that they didn't jump right into the action. It built a lot of suspense, and I feel like if this movie were to come out today or have be remade today, they
Oh.
would get into
Michael
that
Bay would do it for sure.
Yeah, it would happen so much faster, and I feel like because of the pacing, it made it that much better.
And they built that relationship. And
I didn't
not a fan of the relationship.
I didn't necessarily buy it. That was kind of creepy and borderline rapey and weird.
creepy.
It creeped me out. I
Two
don't know.
people who are attracted to each other hook up,
Pulling
and
out
that's
the rape card.
I think that's exactly the
tell
opposite
me,
of rape.
do you live alone? Good.
As they were on the way to her place,
Yeah,
I think he acted appropriately.
I
I'm
didn't
going to
say
stand
he
by
was
my
the
boy
rapey
David
one.
Kessler. She raped him?
I know. I think the nurse was a little rapey.
Oh, okay.
Like the whole
Okay.
feeding scene was a little weird.
It was a little weird.
It made me a little uncomfortable.
she's like, oh yeah, she's like, oh, you're traumatized. I guess I'll take care of you.
I was seriously expecting
Well-
it to like turn to porno music and just like be a
I think
porn
that
at that
rapey
point.
is extreme. I'd say that she's attracted to crazy people. I love...
Whatever, Nick, if that's your fantasy.
I have this scenario in my head where she goes home with a guy and she says, I've had 8 lovers in my life, 4 were one-night stands, and 1 was a werewolf and went on a murdering spree in Piccadilly Circus. That's going to be her next date.
But I like you better. Let me feed you. Yeah, I think she was the mentally unstable one in this movie, actually.
Now, you were also saying something as a stop-motion animator.
Oh, definitely appreciate the special effects. I was granted, I've only seen one short, like, little clip of it, but I felt they held up really well, especially the first transformation scene where you actually see the hands growing and the feet growing.
Yeah.
It looked great.
Yeah.
Really good.
This was the movie that basically gave Rick Baker to the world. I think Rick Baker worked on some of the Star Wars films, but it was this where everybody kind of woke up and said, who is this guy? And yeah, he really brought it. And I think this is why this was the one werewolf movie of that year that really stood out. It was absolutely fantastic.
I have to say, I was terrified as a child, and there was definitely a point, I don't remember
You
when.
got up and started
when
looking
I screamed,
away.
When I definitely screamed. I always think that practical effects are way scarier than CG.
Oh yeah, if this was computer animated, it would have been 15 seconds long, and it wouldn't have been as enjoyable.
I would have been like, whatever, that's fake blood.
And, you know, I always think of, you know, it's funny, they talked a lot about the original Wolfman, the Lon Chaney Jr. movie. And that had this incredible transformation scene where it's just a series of crossfades. And if you think about it, in the 1930s, that was cutting edge. And it worked and it was cool. But then you start to see this, and it's like, you know, completely different story. Then you see what's today, and it's like, okay, there's nothing there. There's no meat to it. There's nothing to enjoy about a CG transformation.
It was also kind of nice to see a monster movie that, or just any movie with a history of the genre, actually acknowledging that there was a history of the genre.
That's true.
And
Yeah.
it's not just like in a world where werewolves don't exist.
Yeah. All of a sudden, there's a werewolf for the first time ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lugosi, who's that?
He's basically doing that thing with her that I would have done, like reciting, oh yeah, you remember the 1930s, Bela Lugosi and Lon Chaney Jr. and Claude Rains is the father who kills him?
Yeah, just
It's
so
like-
you know, Nick pretty much said that exact thing to us before watching the movie.
So if you hear that, British nurses, come on over.
Oh boy. Oh boy, that's...
You think you know this scenario ends with you dying?
Yeah, exactly. It'll work out.
Yeah.
Blue moon.
So anything else, Sam? Is that...
I guess my expectations were very different than the actual movie. Like, I was expecting just, like, cheesy,
Yeah.
no substance, nothing. And granted, I wouldn't say it's like, you know, Citizen Kane or anything, but
Right.
it definitely took itself way more seriously than I was expecting, and as a result, I took it more seriously.
It's
But still
interesting
had
that
the humor.
It's
Yeah.
interesting that there was so much substance. Like, because I agree, the movie had a lot more substance than like some of the characters in it.
Like the comic relief, befuddled, confused cop who can't tie his tie properly.
Or the American guy.
Yeah, the American guy,
dude,
that balding
who was
dude.
Frank Oz.
Yes, that was amazing. I just want to point out this was great. I made a little note in my notebook. Oh, you have to talk about the fact that the guy from the embassy is Frank Oz.
Oh, my God.
And then Ash turns to me and she says, like, he comes to me and says, "Hi," and Ash is like, "Is that Fozzie?"
Like instantly, I was like, "Oh my god, that's Fozzie."
Oh, that's great.
I just couldn't take anything he said seriously from that point on.
But stupid kids, you try to help them.
I was expecting Kermit to come out at any moment, and then he
Which
did.
he did. Kermit did come out.
Oh
Yes.
god. So Sam liked the movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who's
Brett,
next?
did you
Well,
like? The
yeah,
movie?
I did like it, but you know, it was just interesting for me to see that there were so many just vapid, empty, bad acting characters in that movie,
There
and
was
have
a
it be
lot of
still
bad
so
acting.
good,
I felt
and
like
like not good in a like a ham and cheese way, but like, you know, it was like a good movie. I liked it.
I think the direction and the cinematography, you know, like the way it was thought out was amazing. One of the shots particularly to me is the shot where that guy falls down on the escalator.
Thank you.
And we're seeing, like, from way up the escalator, looking down on him. He's laying down there, and we just see, like, a few seconds of the werewolf, like, creeping up on him. And it's kind of that traditional, like, the traditional horror films that were all about, like, the suspense and the keeping you on the edge of your seat. And, like, what they didn't show you was what was super scary. So, like, we just got a few glimpses of the werewolf, and then we cut.
And like that is awesome to me. Like that sort of stuff I thought was really cool.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because that's one of my favorite parts. Is just, you know, the wolf creeping up like a boss as the
Like
guy,
a boss.
as the guy's on the escalator. That is such a fantastic shot.
So
Yeah.
so would you say you liked it or
No, I would say I liked it, and
Excellent.
yeah, it was an enjoyable experience. Thank you, Jonathan Landis, part-time porn director.
part-time? Seriously, he probably directed those scenes.
There was a lot.
Oh, I'm sure.
There was a lot of porn.
It really felt like
See you
John
next
Landis and
Wednesday.
his buddies are like, wouldn't it be funny if this happened in a porn? And they're like, you know, we're totally going to put that into the werewolf movie.
It's funny also to watch because there's so much porn in the movie. How hard they tried not to show full frontal nudity on the guy.
In the whole movie, yeah, like no full
They
frontal.
tried so
Not even in the
hard.
porno.
Yeah, anytime he's laying down, he's laying with his leg crossed over his junk in a way that nobody would actually lay.
And
he's
I'm just
waking
like-
up confused in a zoo, but his leg is covering his
Like,
junk.
seriously, show us the dick.
Yeah, like I got to a point where I was just like mad. I was like, "Show me your dick. I don't even care anymore." It's
Like,
not a
they
sexual
talked about
thing.
it so much and never showed it.
Yeah.
Like, why are we even here?
Now I just want to stumble across David Naughton on the street.
And
It's
ask
like,
him to
why
show
didn't
you.
Why didn't you show the
Can
dick?
you please now show me your dick? It
You
has
built
been
it up
years.
for like 45 minutes.
Seriously, 30 years, but I need to know.
All right, Ash, aside from the lack of dick. what
Oh,
did
you know what makes a good movie for me. I definitely liked it. It was better than what I expected, but I have issues with the ending. I have to say that was quite the abrupt ending that I didn't appreciate.
Well, let me ask you this. When you've got a movie about a werewolf and the werewolf has died, where else does that story go?
Is there a sequel to this movie?
It goes to like the
There is.
random
We'll talk about that in a moment.
the random person that he happened to scratch, who is also, it's like thwarts our expectations, you know, like we think he's dead, we think the werewolf course is over, but wait.
So you're
it's like
saying-
Jumanji, where like on Jumanji, you think it's fucking over, and then the board game washes up on a beach somewhere in France, and you're like, oh shit.
So
Thank you
you're
for connecting
saying
those.
that you want to break expectations by having it end like every other horror movie, which is the monster is dead, but oh no, shock at the end, he's not dead. That's what you're looking for.
I wouldn't
this
say
was different.
every other horror film
This
is
point,
like
this
that.
point is important. I
Yeah,
like
I
this.
agree. I'll let you finish.
Okay,
I'm
but
finished. That's
but you
the
have
point.
to agree with me that like either way, whether it ends with him dying and that's the end, or whether it ends with someone else, it was still an abrupt ending.
It was
Yes.
abrupt, but I
Got no
feel
problem with it.
effective.
It was it was abrupt and awkwardly timed, like so much of the rest of the movie.
I'm just sitting here reading a book. Jesus Christ!
Yeah.
I'm in pain!
Totally.
Yeah, but just really long shots of just him standing there.
In
Like,
the phone booth
I
with
just-
the Swiss Army knife.
Yeah.
You know, if it was gonna end with him dying, that's cool. But I only got like half a second to mourn with that chick who I've spent the whole movie with before we go to credits. Like, can I have a few more moments with her?
I kind of wanted to see
I want a
like,
few more moments with it.
like
Oh,
just
boy.
just one more shot where he's dead on the ground and then the girl's crying
And you can
and
see
then
the dick.
his
Yeah,
his
it's
zombie
just a
friend
close
shows
up.
up, you know,
Yeah.
and his zombie friend's there, just like yes.
Finally, I can be
And they
dead.
like totally like Obi-Wan Kenobi it, like half there, see
get
through,
it.
like disappear
With-
into
with
the
all the
Alf
teddy bears
Yeah.
are dancing.
and the gang from the Thames. So what you want is the board game Jumanji washing up on the shores in Paris. And for that,
No.
I give you American Werewolf in Paris.
Okay.
The
Wow.
much overlooked sequel to American Werewolf in London,
Wow.
which is terrible.
Oh boy.
It's pretty bad. The one thing...
Well, I'm gonna go in with high expectations.
Or you could skip it. The one thing that sticks out of my mind about American Werewolf in Paris, I don't remember anything else. I think it was Julie Delpy, I'm not sure. But again, American guy werewolf, he's freaking out. She has to calm him down, and the way she calms him down is she just jumps on his lap, tears off her shirt, puts his hands on her tits, and he calms down.
Jesus.
That was the
fucking
scene that
Christ.
I remembered in that movie. That's the only thing I remember.
Of course, that's
They
the scene you
call that
remembered.
move the pacifier.
Yeah.
Oh God.
I'm sorry.
It's just such a
And
weird
that scene there was actually the scene from See You Next Wednesday.
Yeah,
so-
that was
so-
actually, yeah. I
So
deleted
are they like stepping on their own toes there by like, oh, yeah, the fucking zombie friend was like, yo dude, you're the last werewolf, so how is there a sequel?
I don't remember.
Yeah,
Maybe
how
we
is
need
there
to-
a sequel?
We need to watch American Werewolf. It may not be like strictly a sequel. I don't know. I don't remember.
It's a follow-up.
So, okay,
Right.
since you bring up the awesome... Wait, I guess before I go to the awesome zombie friend, who I want to talk about, because I'm curious...
Because he was such a bitch at the beginning of the movie.
He was, and then he became so cool. But the animation on his face was amazing.
It was very good.
Whatever
I
it was.
wouldn't call it animation.
Whatever it was.
Just top-notch makeup effects
Yes.
from Rick Baker's team.
But Nick, you're the last person. What did it live up to your
Oh,
expectations?
that's good. I still enjoy it. I still love it. As I'm watching it, I'm thinking about that idea of, presenting a movie to other people. And I'm thinking about if I'd never seen this movie before, it was my first time seeing it, I don't think it would have the same impact on me. There is something about having a history with this movie that makes me love it. If I had seen it now fresh, I would have thought, like, that was pretty decent, and I would have moved on with my life. But, yeah, there's something about the history of it. But I do still really like it.
I have to say, though, there were 2 quotes in the movie that were my favorite quotes ever.
I have one, too.
Okay, mine was, "Have you ever talked to a corpse? It's boring."
It's boring.
And the other one was, "Winston Churchill is full of shit."
Yeah. I loved, there's little things that twinge your memory. I loved, "That's enough," and then a beat, "That's enough." And
like he's a fucking dog or something.
and I really loved, a naked American man stole my balloons.
Yes.
I want to use
The
that.
little British kid.
If I ever go to the zoo with you, I'm definitely going to walk up and say that to you.
Yeah, we're gonna get kicked out.
Why would a thief want to give me money?
The kid is like, "What the hell?"
He's a smart little British kid.
He's pretty smart.
I actually was really surprised by the whole like ghost aspect of the story, and it was really unexpected and a nice twist that kind of added depth to the stereotypical like werewolf story, and I enjoyed that a lot.
Do you think there's an element to that of John Landis seeing what Rick Baker is capable of and building a movie around what Rick Baker is capable of? You could do this. Oh, I can write a story for that,
I mean,
Maybe.
I suppose anything is possible. Who knows where inspiration came from? But I felt
That's
like
what John Landis said. Anything is possible.
But it definitely worked with the story. It didn't feel like forced. It didn't feel like it was just there to showcase the special effects.
Was there any societal commentary being done with that car crash at the end?
Is that an allegory
This
for
is
bringing down the Berlin Wall?
This is what I want to know, because I'm pretty sure I was trying to count, and more people really did die in that car crash than the werewolf killed the whole
I
movie.
think they did.
Yeah. I
Somebody
love-
got straight up ran over.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
a couple people.
And
Yeah.
then the double-decker bus swings to the side, a car hits it, and somebody just flies out the window.
Oh
Dead.
my god.
More dangerous than fucking
Yeah.
a paranormal werewolf is just cars.
Well, I think it's obvious that John Landis has this hard-on for piling up lots of cars. Because remember how Blues Brothers ends.
That's
just
true.
a gigantic pile of cars.
That's true.
I guess he just loves doing that.
It certainly makes things exciting.
It's like Spielberg and his aliens.
It's like, how many cars has Universal Studios bought for John Landis? I'd like to see that number.
And they just send out an email to the interns like, hey, you want your car to appear in a movie?
What else is in your notebook there?
Makeup was great. Ash kind of touched on it on the ghost friend.
Especially the last time we see him. And that's the time that, like, okay, I know that all the other times were makeup, but the time when, like, you could, like, see his skin had deteriorated, and they're in the porno theater, and he has, like, the teeth, and like it's like his eye sockets. Like, was that really a person or was that an
looked
animatronic?
like
Yeah,
an
it was
animatronic,
Yeah.
like skilled puppetry.
It looked really good. I mean, it was amazing.
Yeah, I like that he was decaying over time. And I also sort of felt like that was Rick Baker saying, let's do this. This will be cool, you know? I liked more the first time we saw him when it looked very real. It looked like torn, flappy bits of skin flopping
Yeah.
around.
I agree.
That was very good.
Impressive.
Yeah.
It looked really cool. And they balanced it really nicely because it went across half his face so you could recognize him, and it was this really great kind of, you know, playing with what was real and what was gory.
I thought you were going to say they balanced it really well with the humor, because it's this like horrifying thing. He just sits on the bed, grabs a toast, dips it in the egg. You know,
Yeah.
you're a werewolf, man.
I
And you
mean-
know what? You're an asshole.
That's something that we didn't really touch on yet is like this movie is really creepy, but there is like a sense of humor through it throughout the entire movie. And it's like it's funny but also scary at the same time. Like all those porno jokes like I told you never to do this again. I never. Yeah, and he's
Oh, yeah,
like, I
sorry.
mean her. Like that whole thing, and here, werewolf dude, meet all the people you killed last night. And there's that couple, and that couple is the two people out of all the people killed that are like so jovial and like, oh yeah, hey, you know, why don't you use sleeping pills? You know, they're like so like upbeat about it.
And this just occurred to me as you were saying that. They're stuck in this limbo between life and death. Are they stuck living the moment that they died? Because they were drunk and sloppy when they died.
But you could
know?
argue that the hobos were too. And they weren't drunk and sloppy.
Well, they weren't like funny and laughing and having a good time. They
That's
were
true.
just
The
calm
zombie
and subdued.
friend was complaining at his moment of death and continued to do so.
He did continue
Yeah.
to complain.
It also easily, like the torn up skin prosthetics could easily have been too gory. And like I feel like there is a really
far.
good balancing act between like keeping it watchable.
Oh, you think they didn't go too far?
Yeah.
You think that's
yeah.
a trap that they avoided?
Yeah. Because I mean, like it wasn't like I have to look away, because if you look away, then you don't get to see you don't get to experience the comedy of the moment, you know. And we've definitely seen a few movies like that.
I agree. Being a person who's like really grossed out by gore, I was able to watch it with appreciating the artwork and like appreciating the look without feeling sick to my stomach.
That's something that, specifically what you just said, that I remember distinctly when I went to film school. Like one of my teachers telling me is like, if there's ever a second that the audience looks away from the screen, then you've lost them and you have not done your job. And like the part of the problem with a lot of movies nowadays is they like to take it to that extreme because of the shock factor. But it's like, if people are turning away from your film, are you really succeeding as a filmmaker? You know, like it's an interesting concept.
It's extra impressive considering they included a being bored montage. There was a montage in which our main character was just bored.
But they put the
Yeah.
fun music, so you were okay with it.
Maybe that's it. And somehow, it just didn't lose our attention.
And
Ash
the
was
ridiculous British TV
Yeah.
shows that were just like, you can't make that shit up. That was amazing. I hope that's really what British TV is like.
Oh God, I hope not. I feel so bad for them.
So, David Naughton, the actor who played David, I was looking up our three main actors, and you know, David Naughton hasn't done a lot of movies, but he has done a lot of TV. In the 80s, he did Murder, She Wrote, MacGyver. He's been on Grey's Anatomy.
Grey's Anatomy.
Grey's Anatomy. Psych. Griffin Dunn, who played Jack, the zombie friend, has also been doing mostly TV, but he was in Dallas Buyers Club, which I haven't seen.
Also
I still
haven't
need
seen.
to see it.
I haven't seen it either.
Ginny Agater, of course, Alex, Nurse Price, has done, you know, a lot of TV in Britain, of course. But the one thing that I absolutely loved, if you remember in Avengers, there was the World Council that was like the governing agency, and they're all cloaked in shadows. And I remember seeing that and thinking, That's Ginny Agutter. That is the nurse from American Werewolf in London as one of the World Security Council
As one
people.
of the shadows.
As one of the shadows. You could see their face.
Wait, you could... Okay. I was going to say, you picked her out from a silhouette.
Yes. I remember Ginny Agutter. And then she was...
I have a signed poster on.
But what was really exciting, if you've seen Captain America Winter Soldier, they had the World Security Council, and we got to see Ginny Agutter, like, age, I don't know, 65, like, kicking people's ass. Like, totally doing kung fu on people. That was freaking thrilling. And I couldn't talk to you people about it when Captain America 2 came out, because you wouldn't have known who she was, and now. So if you've seen Avengers or Captain America 2, that's where Ginny Agutter is.
Okay.
Oh.
I'll have to go back and watch it now
Yeah.
with that in mind.
Yes.
Good to know she's successful. Is David still going commando in films?
I don't think he's in a lot of films anyway.
Oh.
He's probably not commando on Grey's Anatomy.
Because who just rips
Unless
off their
he's-
jeans and is not wearing underwear?
Yeah, I couldn't
Going-
imagine wearing nothing with the jeans as tight as girls wear them. That would be crazy.
Well,
You would
yeah.
be missing some parts by the end of
I
the day.
have worn jeans with nothing underneath, and it is weird. I wouldn't have done it as long as he did it. But
Would you then tear them off in one shred?
if I was transforming,
I think this could be a new Vegas show.
If-
American Werewolf in Vegas.
if you are transforming into a wolf, you have to take your pants off because that is going to be so painful when you have weird.
Do you think that was his
misformed dog
mindset?
legs.
How did he know?
His mindset? Yeah.
Because
How did he know?
Jack told him.
But was his mindset
hold on.
like, I
We
need to
were
fucking
there.
take my pants off?
We were there for the Jack's tail, and he said nothing about growing.
Remember to take your pants off.
Yeah, I did not hear that.
Step one in the transformation:
Well,
take
he
off
knows
your pants.
that he doesn't like people seeing his dick.
Well,
so he's
that's
not
true.
Even, he's like, first priority, kill yourself. All right, second priority, stay away from the moon. Third priority, take your pants off. But you know what? I'm not even going to go there, because kill yourself. So he was prioritizing.
Frankly, the fact that he doesn't remember anything after reading the book, in my mind, just means
Yeah,
that
his brain was off.
the werewolf took over, and the werewolf side knows to take its pants off, so it
Yeah.
doesn't get
And
painful.
I guess we have to acknowledge that somehow there was a full moon 2 nights in a row,
Yeah, what
which
was
is
that
interesting. I guess they've got loose rules about full moons.
It's a detail I'm willing to overlook.
If there's a super moon, do you get a super werewolf?
about? That was amazing.
That's amazing.
So I think American Werewolf in London was a pretty good result. I think that came out pretty well.
It was
Yeah.
better than I expected.
Yeah,
Excellent.
I have to agree.
Oh yeah, Bryce, what did you think of American Werewolf in London?
Yeah, it was good.
So that's it for this episode. As always, we'd be really interested to hear what you guys have to think. Do you think it was any good? You can always drop us a line on Twitter.
Yeah, you can tweet at us at Let's Rewatch on Twitter. And also, if you have any movie suggestions, send them our way. We'd love to hear what you guys think we should watch. And also, just so you guys know, Let's Rewatch is part of the Laughstash TV network. That is our YouTube channel where we do all sorts of fun, nerdy videos. We do video game parodies. We do a drink review show called Let's Drink, where Bret and I get shamefully drunk on camera and all sorts of fun, nerdy stuff. So do check us out on there. And you can also follow Laughstash TV on Twitter at Laughstash TV.
All right, that'll do it for us on this episode.
Next week, Rockadoodle.